Have you ever wondered why you feel so tired and bloated? Or maybe you're doing everything right, but you can't lose weight. And have you ever thought that maybe, just maybe, your anxiety is connected to your gut health? Because it affects digestion, immune function, your nervous system, and your hormones. Let me count the trillion ways that gut health impacts your body.
I'm Dr. Vicki Petz Casper. I practiced obstetrics and gynecology for 20 years until I landed on the other side of the sheets as a very sick patient. When my own body betrayed me, I took a handful of pills to manage my disease and another handful to counteract the side effects. My health was out of control. Through surgery, medications, and lots of prayers, I regained my strength only to face another diagnosis. My doctor challenged me to make radical changes through lifestyle medicine. Now I feel great and I want to help you make changes that make a difference. Healthy Looks Great on You podcast takes you to many medical schools so you can learn the power of lifestyle medicine. If you're ready to take control of your health, you're in the right place. Whether you're focused on prevention or you're trying to manage a condition, I'll give you practical steps to start your own journey toward better health, because healthy looks great on you.
You've got bugs in your belly. A lot of them, in fact. Trillions of microbes call your gut home. Think of them like neighbors. Some of them help you bake bread, maybe watch your kids, loan you a cup of feel-good serotonin. Others blast heavy metal at 3 a.m. and set your garage on fire, causing inflammation throughout your body. Who you let live there and what you feed them matters. Do you know what slogan was first mentioned in Germany in the 1800s, made its way into the nutrition narrative in the 1930s, was embraced by the hippie culture of the 1960s, and was the subject of a 2024 documentary on Netflix? I'll give you a hint. It involved 22 pairs of identical twins. And only 3 in 1,000 births are identical twins, but my dad was one. He and his brother looked just alike. But in a lot of ways, they could not have been more different. But here's the deal. Genetically, twins have the exact same genetic code. So they're an interesting way to try to determine how external factors influence outcomes. So here's what happened with the twin experiment called You Are What You Eat by Dr. Christopher Gardner. He's a PhD professor of medicine and nutrition science at Stanford Medicine, and he wrote a paper about his study which was titled Cardiometabolic Effects of Omnivorous versus Vegan Diets in Identical Twins, a randomized clinical trial. Now look, the study only lasted 8 weeks, and so in the grand scheme of things, that's not very long. But I dare you to try and make radical changes for a couple of months and see what happens to your health. But if you are serious about making some radical changes and you need a little help getting started or maintaining those changes, I've got some good news for you. Go to my website and check out my Kickstarter program to help you start losing belly fat or make whatever habit change you're trying to make and make it last. But what happened to the twins? Well, for each of the 22 pairs of twins, one was placed on a vegan, plant-based diet, and the other ate a healthy omnivore diet, which included animal products, meat, eggs, and dairy, but not fast food and bacon with every meal. Both groups got whole food-based meals that were similar in calories. Then they looked at lab values and body composition, and they followed up to see what long-term changes they made. And most of the twins studied made long-term changes towards less animal products and more plants, but they didn't become vegan or vegetarian. That's what eating plant-based is all about. They started calling it plant-based, then plant-predominant, and now it's plant-forward, and no wonder people are confused. We can't even land on a name for it. But as a reminder, vegetarians don't eat meat at all. Vegans don't eat any animal products, strictly speaking, not even honey. I can't even. But plant-based means that you get the majority of your energy and calories from plants. And it's whole food, not potato chips, and certainly not fruit protein bars. Don't even get me started. Please just read the label and we can talk about it. But whole food, plant-based diets are increasingly being shown to have tremendous health benefits. They're just super hard to stick with because we get so busy we eat out or we order takeout or we grab packaged food that's high in calories and low in nutrients. That's why I created the pantry guide for you that includes things that you can stock in your pantry so that you're always ready to throw together a quick meal that nourishes rather than just filling your belly. Go to healthylooksgreatonyou.com/pantry guide and get yours today. It's free. In 8 weeks, the group eating a vegan plant-based diet lowered their bad cholesterol by 10 to 15%, their insulin levels by 25%, and their body weight by 3%. And that's pretty impressive for a couple of months. Just do the math. Not only did they draw blood to look at metabolic markers, they also collected stool samples and looked at their poop to assess the gut microbiome. Because what goes in at the top can be evaluated by what comes out at the bottom. But what really matters is the work that goes on in between. And based on what they found, you might not say you are what you eat, but rather you are what your gut microbes do with what you eat. Spoiler alert, your gut microbiome affects visceral fat, inflammation, and metabolism. And this adds a lot of weight to your food choices. See what I did there? But this isn't about your waistline. This is about the connection between overall health and gut health. So let's go to mini medical school for a little microbiology, and I'd like to introduce you to some of the critters residing in your gut. We won't have time to meet them all. It is so crowded inside your intestines, it would violate building code. Whenever you're being taken on a tour, you'll always be shown the best stuff first. So let's meet the good guys. They're the ones organizing the neighborhood watch. They help with digestion, protect your gut lining, calm inflammation, and produce feel-good chemicals like serotonin and short-chain fatty acids. The first one I'd like for you to meet is Akkermansia muciniphila. Of course, it could be muciniphila. You say phyla, I say phila. Either way, it has nothing to do with the city of brotherly love, but everything to do with loving on your gut lining. This little guy munches on your gut mucus, and that strengthens the gut lining and reduces inflammation. Not enough of Mr. Acker, and you might end up with excess intestinal mucus. Ew. Mr. Acker also improves insulin sensitivity, and that helps fight off visceral fat like a microscopic personal training. The catch? Well, he thrives on fiber, not French fries. Remember, visceral fat is the inside version of belly fat, which we talked about the whole month of May. So if you need a refresher, go back and listen to those episodes. Moving on, I'd like for you to meet a bacteria with a fancy name and a big job. Faecalibacterium prosnitzi. Whenever you hear Faecala, you should think fecal, which is gross. So let's just call this one Mitzi Nitzi because prosnitzi is hard to pronounce. A healthy gut is stocked up on short-chain fatty acids, and Mitzi Nitzi poops out butyrate, which is an anti-inflammatory short-chain fatty acid that calms inflammation and strengthens the gut barrier. This keeps the good stuff in and the bad stuff out. Therefore, it improves metabolic health. You want this bacteria growing in your belly to keep things well fertilized. You know, my grandfather could grow just about anything. He had lots of flowers in his yard, and he always fertilized with manure. But people with irritable bowel syndrome and obesity tend to have lower levels of this big bug butyrate producer. Mitzi Nitzi isn't the only one though. Roseburia also produces butyrate, supports the gut lining, and reduces inflammation. And she thrives on a fiber-rich, plant-based diet. You know what that is, right? Don't worry, I'll make sure you do if you stay tuned to this podcast. But all neighbors have that one lady who takes everyone under her wing and mothers them to death. So I'd like for you to meet Bifidobacterium. Let's call her Mama Biff. And like all good mamas, she can be sweet and sour. Bifidobacterium is found in breast milk and fermented foods. Think kefir, kimchi, tempeh, and sauerkraut. Mama Biff helps digest fiber, boosts immune function, and supports the gut barrier. Loyal, friendly, and always trying to help, she's there. So feed her beans, oats, and vegetables, and she'll love you forever. Also, sourdough bread, which is pretty fitting because it's kind of the gift that keeps on giving. The last good bacteria I'd like for you to meet on Gut Street is one you've probably heard of, Lactobacillus. This one helps with digestion, prevents bloating, and supports a healthy immune system. Basically, it's your gut's peacekeeping officer, making sure that things don't go off the rails. And ladies, you probably know more about this than you realize because let's say you have an infection of some sort, maybe a sinus infection, and you're prescribed an antibiotic whose mission is to kill bacteria. But broad-spectrum antibiotics feel the same way about bacteria as I do about snakes. There aren't any good ones. So they kill off the Lactobacillus acidophilus, which produces lactic acid, which you may remember from chemistry class, lowers the pH. Oh, you slept through chemistry because you couldn't see why it mattered? Well, your high school teacher would be happy for you to know that it does matter. Because when you don't have enough acid-producing bacteria in your gut, and therefore in the vagina, the pH may not be low enough to protect you from a yeast infection. Next week, we're going to talk about prebiotics, probiotics, and antibiotics, so stay tuned. Now would probably be a good time to encourage you to sign up to get every single episode by email, because when you do, you'll also get tips and even a few quick fix recipes. And besides, I'm always telling you to check the show notes for links, but I don't ever tell you how to do that. If you're on Apple Podcasts, there's a little ellipse, you know, the 3 little dots. If you click on that, you can see the show notes, you can see all the links. But seriously, it's much easier if you just sign up for the emails, and I'll send you a link where you can literally just hit the play button. Now, let's meet the microbial mischief makers. When these guys overgrow, they stir up inflammation like they're having a protest in your colon. Blame it on low fiber, a high-fat diet, and too much red meat. These microscopic spheres are tiny, but your waist may not be if they take over, because when they take over, it creates insulin resistance, which can lead to belly fat, and that doubles your risk of dying prematurely. We're going to stay in this part of the neighborhood that might sound familiar and meet another bad guy, Clostridium difficile. You've likely heard of C. diff, and it can be a wicked infection if it takes hold. Here's what happens. Your normal gut flora gets wiped out by antibiotics, and this bug shows up to squat in the ruins and throw toxic parties. It causes severe, explosive, stink to high heaven diarrhea. And it's tough to get rid of. Think hazmat suits and bleach on every surface to get rid of the spores. So keep your good bugs strong so C. diff stays quiet. And don't let the name of this next one fool you. Bilophila wadsworthia is not a book lover, but rather a villain that moves in when you eat a lot of saturated fat, especially animal fat. This one loves bile salts, not novels, and instead of poking holes in the plot, it pokes holes in your gut wall. And not only is that incredibly rude, it can lead to increased gut permeability. Some people call this leaky gut, but listen, here's the deal. This is a lifestyle medicine podcast that focuses on research-proven evidence. And leaky gut at this point is still a hypothetical condition, and it's not formally recognized by the medical community. But it is proposed to contribute to things like irritable bowel syndrome, celiac disease, autoimmune conditions, and maybe even digestive issues like bloating and gas. And speaking of gas, hold your nose because disulfovibrio reduces sulfates and produces hydrogen sulfate gas, which is kind of toxic in excess. Think rotten egg farts that come from inside your gut lining. Okay, enough of that. Now, you've met the friends and frenemies in the neighborhood. It's time to fight for your gut with the things on your plate. To tip the balance in favor of good bacteria in your gut, feed them fiber-rich foods. Think lentils, leafy greens, berries, oats. Stay tuned next week to learn about those prebiotics and probiotics. But for now, just think fiber. There's a link in the show notes to another episode that is called The Key to Staying on Any Diet, and I'll just give you a hint. It is fiber because it makes you feel full. But in that episode, I talk about specific foods that are high in fiber. Your diet also needs variety, so don't be a one friend at a time kind of person with a spinach-only salad habit. Expand your circle and include lots of friends on the produce aisle. Not only is this the spice of life, but diversity on the plate encourages diversity in the gut, and that's healthy. This diversity and function of your gut microbiome influences inflammatory pathways, hormones, and neurotransmitters, even how you store visceral fat and how well you sleep. Fermented foods are increasingly being recognized as beneficial. We'll talk about that next week, but think about kefir and sauerkraut and kimchi and stuff that smells a little funky but does wonders. And exercise and sleep matter too. I know you're shocked, but the thing that sends the intestinal neighborhood downhill faster than anything is sugar and ultra-processed foods. You know, foods that come in a crinkly wrapper. So if you want to sleep better, reduce belly fat, calm down inflammation in your body, here's what I want you to do. Look for ways to add fiber to your diet. And adding something to your diet is so much easier than trying to take away something from your diet. And if you haven't grabbed my pantry guide, go to my website, healthylooksgreatonyou.com, and get a list of 10 things that you can keep in your pantry and 10 things you can keep in your freezer that help you literally throw together a quick, fiber-filled meal and avoid ordering takeout. And remember, fiber is only found in plants. Eating plants is good for your gut health, even on the inside. And whether it's the inside or the outside, healthy looks great on you.
The information contained in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not considered to be a substitute for medical advice. You should continue to follow up with your physician or healthcare provider and take medication as prescribed. Though the information in this podcast is evidence-based, new research may develop and recommendations may change.